Hello, it's me again. I wanted to talk a little bit about my grandmother. Um, Talk a little bit about how we kind of came to be, how we were raised, how we come from such a strong line of independent women. I was lucky enough to be raised by my mother, Carmen, and my grandmother, Gloria. Um, Regardless of what people will say, I was her favorite, and I'm sticking to it. That's my story. um, my grandmother, was raised by her Aunt Vita. I don't know if you heard my last story, but my grandmother's mom passed away at a very young age, and my grandmother was only 6 years old. She was then raised by Vita Amendares, where I think we get a lot of our strength from, where I think we get, I'd like to say it's like, it's not necessarily, the name, some people say it's the Cervantes women, but reality is like, it's not really the Cervantes women, it's the Amendares women. Because that's where we originally come. That's where we originally come from and get our strength. Vita Amendares was young too when her sister passed away, leaving 3 kids behind, which were my grandmother, my aunt Mina Minerva, and my Tio Felix. Vita was the one who raised them. She took them in as her own children. The story goes is that like she worked and devoted her life to raising Momo, and which is what I call my grandmother Gloria, Momo and Mina and Theophiles, and she raised them as her own children. She never married. She had a guy who she was he really wanted to marry her and take her away from this, and she's like, no, these are my sister's children and they're my children. And so she turned that away so that she could raise my grandmother. And she's actually the woman who, she'd work all day, then come home to 3 children that cooked and cleaned and did all of that stuff for. They lived off of, 2015 Riverview, which is on the east side here in Austin, Texas. She lived there, and she did that, later on when Momo and them got older and my mom was born. And she's actually the woman who taught my mom how to cook. Many people comment about my mom's cooking, which is my mom's cooking is the best. And she's given her recipes out to many of her nieces and nephews. And but what she learned from Vita. I mean, my grandma was there, and my grandmother, we all know my grandmother, like she probably cooked, but she probably didn't. That's just not my grandma. We tease about it because I always say like, my grandma was not the little viejita that had like cookies and baked warm things. I mean, my grandma, we didn't call her from like that when novelas were on. We didn't look for her like Thursday through Sunday because we knew she was out dancing. Like my grandmother loves to be out there dancing and being very social, the social butterfly. Oh my God, I used to dread having to go to like funerals with her, things like that, or parties, because she'd be like, "Hi, mija, this is my friend. This is Michelle, Carmen's daughter. I meet my daughter Carmen," and I'd be like, "Oh, Momo, this is like the 564 person that you just introduced me to," but that's a whole other topic. So anyway, but Vita was the one who, taught my mom how to make tortillas, taught my mom how to make the Mexican dishes that we all love, the rice, the beans. Like she taught my mom a lot of that stuff, which then left my mom in charge of cooking for her siblings. And mainly because like Momo worked too, and Vita worked. I mean, of course, it was back in those days, and everybody worked, and which left a lot of the children to kind of pick up that area, that slack. And a lot of that did lean on my mom. And not to mention, like, Vita lived right next to her dad, which was Juan Amendares. And Mina moved in, and then that left, so all the cousins always grew up together. Like my mom and Becky and Lucy and all, I mean, they all were always together. Like Rosa used to raise, not raise, but we would babysit me and my brother Timothy, and same with Becky, and like, so we were always very close knit family. But I give props to Vida. She never once thought, she didn't even think twice about taking in her sister's children, and like any of us would do, like any of us would do in a heartbeat if something had happened. I mean, I can't imagine losing my sister at a very young age, and then having her children, which, I mean, let's just say my sister's got a lot of children, so thankfully nothing ever happened to them. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway, the strength comes down. Like I said, Vida would always make sure that my grandmother knew what was right and wrong, stood up for them. Same with Mina, same with the Ofelis, like raised them, like, to stand up for who you are, be who you are. If you knew my grandmother or my, the Ofelis and my Aunt Mina, that's exactly who they were. They're very strong people. They are the strength that, that holds their families and holds our families together. So my grandmother, I remember, hearing the stories and being there at the marches, when back in, what was it, the 80s, when the Ku Klux Klan came, and my grandmother was a big part of the, standing up and fighting for rights of the Chicanos of East Austin, and, doing her part. And we were there right beside her. Never did my grandmother was very into making sure that our rights were being heard, of the East Austin community, of the Hispanic, Chicano backgrounds that we have, that, our little side of towns weren't being dumped on. And so that, she played a big role in a lot of that. And she's always stood up, no matter who it was, no matter what was being said. She always made sure that she was not the one you were going to take advantage of. She was not going to be a doormat for anybody, regardless of who it was. You were definitely going to know where she stands, which is kind of funny because a lot of people say that that's who we are. Which then she taught my mom, my Aunt Susan, my Aunt Stella, my Aunt Diana, all my Aunt Gilda and Gloria. Like, all of our women are strong women. Like, she would always say to me how, like, you always take care of yourself. You always prepare for yourself. And, there were little things that she kind of said, and taught us and things like that, just to make sure that we knew that who we were and where we came from and what our background was. And we also knew that, what, go ahead, you may, get one over on us, but we always land on our feet. And even if we may be knocked down just a little, but we get back up. That's who we are. That's who our blood is. That's in our blood. I always laugh and tease, when people call, say, oh, you're just, whatever the word is, a mean girl or a bitch or whatever. I was like, I come from a long line of them. I will never be your doormat. And that's kind of like the mentality that, we raise our girls with. And same with my mother. My mother was as sweet as can be. Like, she would find people. We always used to say, like, people find stray cats. My mom would find, like, strange families. Like, she would, stray families, not strange, stray families. And, before you knew it, like the night before Thanksgiving, we'd have like a whole other family that didn't have a place to go. And so they were at our house. Or there'd be a Christmas tree, or there'd be, kids whose, parents were, doing things. And there was our house. Our house was always open and, always there. My mother always, you could show up, you could be anywhere in the world, but show up at my house, at my mom's house at 5 o'clock. Dinner was made. It was on the table. My dad was there to eat, and Fox Channel 7 News was on the TV all the time. And she cooked what Vida had showed her how. And no matter what, I would just happen to be like, oh, I'm gonna go visit my mom. And I'd show up there and there'd be my brothers and there'd be my cousins and there'd be, sometimes my aunts and uncles or my grandma, they would be there, and we would all just show up there randomly. But no matter what it was, my mother always had enough food, always say, Mija, just say a little blessing over your food and it goes a long way. I mean, but let somebody put her children on the wrong bus, let somebody, and she would turn into like this mama bear ready to attack. Like she was not the one. I mean, like I said, we were kind of raised all that way. And it's, funny to hear the stories and hear the things as I'm, remembering the stories as I'm telling these stories. But there was some things about that you could do and some things you could not do. And I mean, that's kind of who we were. We were always raised to take pride in who we are. Remember where we come from. Remember who we are, and you see that strength, not only in my mom, my grandmother's family, but you see that strength in my Theophiles and my cousin Kathy and my cousin, Dora and, Alicia. Like all of us are strong girls with very opinionated and, making sure that if somebody next to us is being mistreated, like we're going to definitely say something. Same thing with my cousin Becky and Rosa. And I mean, like, my cousin Elise, like you can already tell, like our family, our generations, they're getting stronger. And we have to remember where that strength comes from. That doesn't mean that we're like being mean and being bullying and being bitches. It just means that we know who we are. And we know what's acceptable as far as treatment and what's not. Anyway, I just want to let y'all know that. And, I'm very thankful. I'm thankful that I was raised that way. I'm thankful that, because when it's all said and done, we've all come and accomplished a lot, but we started as a Mexican family on the east side on Riverview. Right near Chicano Park. And, we have a family, a very big family, and it's full of love and laughter. And I mean, of course, everybody has their little things every now and then, but reality is I can pick up the phone right now and call my cousin Kathy, call my cousin Becky on one side, or, and my cousin Kathy on the other side, or my cousin Jessica now, and be like, hey, I need you. And without any doubt, I know that they would be here. That's who we are. That's what we are. I guess that's it for right now. Thank you for listening.